Gotham Knights draws a lot of comparisons to the Batman Arkham universe for a multitude of different reasons, right? It's an open world game with the free flow combat system, with the same characters in the universe as the Batman Arkham universe. It's meant to be like a Batman sidekick type of game. And I think a lot of people draw comparisons because of the fact that Gotham Knights came out a long time after the Batman Arkham universe, and to a lot of people didn't measure up to the expectations, especially considering the fact that WB had made Gotham Knights, and yet it still did not measure up to their WB 2013 Batman Arkham Origins video game. And I can see why a lot of people would feel disappointed. However, this game is not bad, this game is not awful, and this game does have good qualities to it. So, in today's video, I wanted to cover 5 things that Gotham Knights did well. And if I miss anything in this video, or if there's anything that you would just like to add yourself, let me know down in the comments, what are some things you guys think that Gotham Knights did well? And without wasting any more of your time, let's get into the video. The first thing I thought that this game did well was the map. Now, I'm not usually someone who likes to talk about the size of a map. I'm not usually a fan of games with like a big map. For instance, something like GTA, I find to be a little bit long. I think it's a little bit too big for my own personal taste. However, even though the map was relatively big in this game, not the biggest thing ever, the traversal wasn't so horrendous to the point where I'd fall asleep driving across the map. The map was a pretty good size, but I thought that the world design was actually done extremely well in this game. And even though this game doesn't necessarily compare graphically to other games like certain Batman Arkham stuff in my opinion, I still thought that the actual world design was done really well. I thought all the buildings, the bridges were, constructed extremely well. I thought that everything was extremely well done. It seemed like everything was extremely thorough. And on the map in this game, there were actual citizens, which is something that the Batman Arkham universe never had for some reason. There was always an excuse for the citizens to have to evacuate the city or stay indoors. In this case, we had regular citizens throughout the streets, and we even had thugs going after citizens that you had the option to stop throughout the course of the game. And I thought that that was a really nice touch to add to the map, considering the fact that previous Batman Arkham games would just never do that. So that was a nice addition to this. But like I said before, the actual buildings were designed extremely well. And even the underground stuff for certain missions, whether you're going after the League, or if you're going after the Court of Owls, or even when you're inside certain buildings, I thought everything was constructed beautifully. Everything always looked so thoroughly made, and I have a feeling that that's where a lot of the time and effort was put into this game, was the actual in-world design itself, not just outside in Gotham, but also the underground tunnels, all the missions that we had to do underground. I thought everything was constructed really well, because a lot of it felt very eerie. It had a weird, creepy aura, Batman Arkham Asylum type vibe, but in some ways actually did it better, because I felt more creeped out in this than I did in Batman Arkham Asylum. So I thought everything, like I said, was constructed extremely well. The second thing I thought this game did well, and it's something that seems kind of obvious, but I think it's something that does need to be brought to light, and that was the passing of the torch. Now, what do I mean by that, right? Well, Batman's obviously usually the main character in this type of universe. However, he's dead in this game, right? So you have the 4 super sidekicks, I guess you could call them, being the center of attention in this game. And this game had to get down the passing of the torch to these 4 characters in order for this game to work. Because I think that if this entire game was just about Batman, then I think that they would have missed the mark, and it wouldn't have felt like that the main characters of this game were really that important. It wouldn't have felt like that they kind of just took center stage. It would have felt like that Batman would have still been the main character in a game that he was dead in. And I thought that at the end was the most important part to what I'm about to tell you. When Batman is still alive, when he is brought back by way of the Lazarus Pit, and yet he doesn't get out of that cave alive. He ends his own life essentially in order to prevent the Lazarus Pit from being used in the future. That was like the official passing of the torch that finally signified that Red Hood, Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl were going to be able to defend the city by themselves, and there was no more question as to whether or not Batman was alive. And even though you weren't really questioning it throughout the course of the game of could Batman be brought back, when you saw him be brought back and then exterminate himself by way of actual explosion with the Lazarus Pit gone, then you knew that the torch was officially being passed on to these 4, to the next generation. And I thought that was a really, really nice touch to add into this game, because these characters are usually sidekicks, or we don't usually care about them. And I don't want to keep bringing up Batman Arkham, but every time we saw Nightwing or Robin, or even like Jason Todd in a way, was kind of just, I don't really care that they're in this game that much. The third thing that this game did extremely well is actually the cosmetics. Now, me personally, I've never really been someone who's into cosmetics. I don't really care how stuff looks. I'm not really super fancy. I'm usually just a fan of something kind of basic, and I'm okay with rolling with that. However, this game did a really, really good job of the customizations, even like better than most of the Batman Arkham games. I would say the only Arkham game that might have done it better is Batman Arkham Knight, and that's not even necessarily 100% fact, right? It kind of just comes down to your preference of overall character design. But I like the fact that each character has 14 different suit choices that you can pick from. Now, granted, they're each like got the same name, but the design on them is different based on which character you choose, based on the overall color scheme of said character. Now, granted, like I said before, I'm not really too much into cosmetics. I don't really know too much about this stuff, but I found myself looking at these designs and found these to be extremely cool. And I was kind of going into this thinking that maybe the Gotham Knights customizations or that the overall suit selection was kind of overhyped. I thought that maybe it really wasn't worth it, but boy was I proven wrong when I go in there. In particular, in case you're curious, my favorite one, for some reason, I don't know why, it just sticks out to me, are actually the Talon suits. I really love these things on each of the four characters. Batgirl, not as much, and I think that's just because of the purple color scheme. However, there are some really, really good designs. I really like the Year One designs, and the default suits are good, but had I known about the other suits and the customizations and taken the time to actually look, I probably would have preferred to use an actually cool-looking suit throughout the course of the game. But let me know your guys' favorite suits down in the comments below, because I thought that these were extremely cool, I thought they were very well designed, and I kind of wish I'd gone back sooner to actually look. The fourth thing that I thought that this game did really, really well, and I think it's something that's kind of gone under the radar a bit, is actually the story in itself. Because even though the story, in my opinion, was kind of a bit slow-paced, you know, it took about 3, 4, 5 chapters for it to really get going. Once it does get going, you kind of get really, really interested in what's coming next, right? And I think that for some people, if the game doesn't get started in action right away from pillar to post, from beginning to end, then people might not want to play it as much. But I thought that the story was written really well because the game needed to have time to make you understand how big of a threat you were dealing with here, right? I mean, the Court of Owls having their talons and those big talon guard things, I'm forgetting what they're called off the top of my head, you know, having to show us these really cool puzzles and these levels that take us deep underground to show us what the Court of Owls is doing, making us, you know, investigate certain crime scenes, which I didn't mind the crime scene investigation in the game, and also having to show how lethal the League of Assassins is as well, on top of the freaks and the other types of people throughout the course of this game. I thought the story was written really well. I thought that the characters were interesting in the sense that all 4 superheroes got their chance to shine. All 4 superheroes kind of got to show off some sort of personality that, to be fair, was very, very accurate to what they normally are in other types of media, such as comic books and movies. Like Robin, kind of a shy nerd, Nightwing, a bit more of a loudmouth, but very, very confident and charismatic as well. Jason Todd, kind of the tough, brooding fella. And Batgirl just kind of being a bit nerdy, but she's more extroverted than someone like Robin. I think that's something that's very, very realistic in comparison to other versions of these characters as well. So even though that these people got a chance to shine, the actual villains also were making you very, very interested to come back for more. And finding out that Jacob Kane was the leader of the Court of Owls, finding out that Talia al Ghul was still with the League, finding out that Bruce Wayne was actually still alive, even though he might have just been brought back to life, but either way, at the end of the game, he was brought back to life, and then he died, which was kind of a sad ending, but the plot twist was very, very interesting and definitely worth the wait, in my opinion. So I think that this game does have a few highs. It's just the fact that it's a bit slower paced, so that some people might kind of think that it's a bit of a meh game because of that, but once you really get into it, and once you can really immerse yourself into the world, then I do think that these few things, these few highs that we get, and the plot twists that we get, are definitely worth the wait. The fifth and final thing that this game did well is actually another thing that I don't think that people really talk about too much, and that's the actual menu mission selection portion of this game. If you guys go back to the Belfry and you take a look at your back computer, or you don't even have to go back to the Belfry to do it, you just take a look at the back computer and you can look at the list of all the missions. It tells you exactly where to go, it tells you what level is recommended to be. I think that this little cool option screen for checking to see what side mission is where, and the list of ones that you still have to do before you 100% complete the game, I actually thought was really, really good, because it kind of keeps it simple. And for people who may not want to be searching around the course of the entire map to find a certain side mission, or they might not know where to go, what side mission is what goes with what, because certain side missions kind of tie in together. It can be a bit confusing sometimes, right? Well, this game takes the liberty of making the list for you, telling you exactly where you have to go, which portion of the map you have to be at, and it makes it just so much easier, especially for someone like me. Like, it kind of reminds me, like, if you remember Batman Arkham City, when you had to, like, fly around and look for the political prisoners and find them in random alleyways, like, that's a pain, that's a hassle. Sometimes you're gliding around for 5 minutes looking for them, but in something like this, becomes very, very easy to manage, and it's very, very easy to figure out where you have to go next and what side missions you have left to complete. But guys, this is 5 things I thought Gotham Knights did well. Let me know what game you guys want me to do next. I'm considering maybe playing Season 2 of Telltale's The Walking Dead, or maybe Batman the Telltale series, The Enemy Within. I might do The Last of Us, I could do Spider-Man. I could do freaking GTA at this point. Let me know what you guys want to see next. I hope you guys enjoy these videos, and if you do, make sure to leave a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys later. Peace!